This video is brought to you by the Guitar Skyhook. Okay, welcome back to Artist Talks Nerd Alert. Here we'll go into the more musician's nerdy world, and for a start, Søren Koch will tell us about how he started to play guitar.
At the age of 10, I remember there was Christmas in 1980.
Yeah.
Between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I remember I borrowed a book from the local school library.
Yeah.
Play guitar or something, you know, and it was all like Tom Dooley and Skip to Malou, and I had no interest in that, so I was just like, I just flipped the pages until I saw these diagrams with the chords, you know. I was like, oh, what's that? Let's try that, and I put in, just took the first chord, so it was like, which was a D7 for some reason. I don't remember why. Before I started doing it, I always had this picture of how, you know, how chords and harmonies were put together, how they interacted with each other.
Yeah.
And without ever playing a tonal instrument.
You didn't touch an instrument.
I
just had this idea about.
I played the drums, you know,
Yeah.
and that was the only instrument I played.
Yeah.
But I had this picture of, you know, like you have your basic chord, and you have your fourth step, and you have the fifth, and how the were working with each other, you know.
The three major chords.
Yeah, and but also like the parallel minors and how these chords would lead into each other.
Yeah.
It was like, and I just figured it out. Like it was, I remember seeing it in small boxes, you know. And you have got to go up to that box, you have to go to that one which is G, and you go back to C. But then and you have to go to F, G, C, and I always had this picture of and put it together.
Fantastic.
A D7. I was like, oh yeah, sounds like it. Oh, I know it's got like this seventh thing, and it sounds a little bluesy. Like,
Could you pick the guitar and show us?
Yeah. Like, because you know most kids with the D chord is obvious first chord to learn. You know, like but for some reason, it probably was there in the book, but for some reason it was easier for me to do D7. And it sounds a little more bluesy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And the next one,
that's a Beatles song, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be. It could be anything, you know. But the next chord in the book was like G shape. Yeah. And then it was the A7 this way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I could hear this. I was picturing I had my little picture in my head, you know. The basic, the fourth, and the fifth. Yeah. And back to, and that was it. I was like, I don't need any more than this. So I put the book away, and then it goes, well, she was just 17, and you know, I couldn't. I was 10 years old, so I didn't know how to sing English. So there's a better wind and a wind, you know, something like that, you know. And I was never in doubt how or when to use these three chords from the moment I picked up the guitar. It was like
a natural thing for you.
Yeah. So it was like And I don't think I learned. I think it took maybe 1 or 2 months before I learned the C.
Because you didn't have to.
No, I remember learning the E minor. Oh yeah. Yeah, I already had the minor thing in my head, but I couldn't play a minor chord. No? So it's like, but it was not about learning to play something. It was just more like, with these three chords, I can play a song and I can form a band.
Yeah. And now, we gotta talk about a bass. And I love basses, as you might know. And this one is Rrickenbacker.
Yeah, it's a Rrickenbacker. Yeah, it is. It's my 1967 Rrickenbacker. It's actually a 4001, as most people know. But this was actually made for the European market. For the Rose Morris, the British music store Rose Morris, in the 60s, and they gave the models a different name. So it's a model 1999, actually.
That's the name in Europe. Yeah.
And it's quite special. It's got a Beatles connection actually. Paul McCartney played the Hofner bass, and around 65 he started using the Rrickenbacker a little. Yeah. And really got into using it for Sgt. Pepper. Yeah. One exact. His was a 64, so it was exactly like this, but has some different black knobs. But that's the only thing that was different from this one.
Yeah.
So that's quite a little. They're quite rare, those early Rrickenbackers, because they're much more common in the 70s. They made a lot of them in the 70s, but in the 60s there's not very many made.
And this one is special compared to the American one because it's an S model, which means that it's not stereo.
Yeah. It's not stereo. It's not stereo. The difference no, it makes no sense. So the difference is that it's got rounded edges, like compared to the later Rrickenbackers, which had a binding and they feel like, I love them. They're great basses, not putting them down or anything, but it feels a little smaller because of the round edges. It feels like more handy.
Yeah,
Rrickenbacker actually, and it's quite a lighter thing than most Rrickenbackers I tried in this one.
Yeah.
And
how did you get hold of such an old bass?
Yeah, it's because they're rare like hen's teeth. These one in these days. A friend of mine, actually I think it was Tim. It was Tim Christensen. Yeah. He called me up one day and said, "Hey, I'm down in this music store. I'm in Copenhagen." I said, I'm down in this music store and they have this old, like a part of a Rrickenbacker here, It's like, and it turned out I was just around the corner from where he was. So I'll be there in 2 minutes, At that time I just joined this band and had been using his Rrickenbacker. He's got a modern Rrickenbacker, which is lovely, but I've been using that for some time. And I wanted to get my own, just couldn't find anyone that I really like. So I was just around the corner. I went down there, and there was this music store got it in. I think they got it from a school or something. They found it in the back room of this school, and it was all. I mean, it was literally the body, the neck, the original tuners, the logo plate, of course, and the original pots in. With I could see that from the codes on the pots, and the electronics in, and but the scratch plate has been changed, and the pickups has been changed. The part of the bridge were missing and didn't have any strings on, so I had no chance to try it out. So it was like, is this gonna be a great bass? You never know. It's like it could be rubbish,
It's a Rrickenbacker.
It's a Rrickenbacker, but so I got it for the price was okay, so I decided to jump into that, and I got in touch with Henning Hansen, the Danish guitar builder, who's here in Svendborg, and he's a great guy, and him and his colleague Claus Holm, they're really good at doing these relics, and he's done a lot of guitars like that. So I went to him and said, I want you to get this back to as close to original as possible. And at that time, it had been sanded. When I got it, it had been sanded down. Someone had literally dipped it in some kind of lacquer, and it had run down the bars. It looked terrible. It was terrible. And we took it apart, and I got hold of 2 brand new Rrickenbacker pickups, and we found inside all kinds of colors that it's been through its life. It's been blue, it's been white, and underneath it all, it had this fire glow thing, which is an original Rrickenbacker color from the 60s. So let's get it back to original. And a friend of mine had an original Rrickenbacker guitar from that era, so we borrowed that, and Henning had that guitar to look at, to find the right color. And he managed to do this wonderful job, He's done the paint job, and he's done the light relic. I'm not a fan of all these this idea of have new guitars looking like old guitars, but if you have an instrument like this,
that is an old guitar.
What is an old guitar, and it's got parts that this like the metal parts looks worn, It would look terrible if it had a brand new paint job, So it makes sense to do it on this one. And he's done a great job. And it turned out, fortunately, that this is a really, really great player.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to play actually for a Rrickenbacker bass.
Yeah.
And I immediately started using with Tim when I was with him, and it's become probably my favorite bass. I'm not using it with the Zombies because we're doing a lot of flying. You know, we're doing travel by flight, and it's too pressing for me to take on a flight. You know, if something happens to this, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't, and it's too worth too much to just drag around on planes like that. To me, so, I mean, so I have a nice Fender Precission, 70s Fender Precission, and a Guild M85 that I'm using with the Zombies. But I'm probably gonna use it for some recording, I think, later. And I use it a lot at home, my own Beatophonics studio for recording as well. It's lovely bass.
Can you turn up the volume? Can we have just to hear it? It's singing. And it's got this pick sound as well. I've got one. Never leave home without a pick.
No.
Never.
I got round strings on the one at the moment. But I mean, if you put flat ones, I've tried that as well.
Yeah.
If you put flat ones on it and actually use it's got this mute system, put them up a little bit, and
you can just
and you can get more of a McCartney sound, or you know, like Sgt. Pepper. Like that. It's just a great instrument. And, I love playing it.
It's beautiful. Can I borrow it for a sec?
You can.
Because I'd like to bring it up here. Yeah. It's a beauty, and also on the back, it looks worn, but in the
right way.
In the right way.
Natural way. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I think I've talked Søren into showing us a guitar and maybe sing a little song, so stay tuned. A skyhook is a new and discreet way to hang your guitar on a wall. Use the strap button on the back of the guitar. If you don't have one on your guitar yet, the Skyhook comes with one for you to mount. Find more information on the website Skyhook.dk.
This is my one of my probably my favorite guitar, I'll say. This is a 1964 Gretsch Chet Atkins Tennesee, it's called. And when I was a kid, you know, listening to the Beatles and watching the Beatles, pictures of the Beatles, I would see George Harrison holding this exact, not this guitar, but one exactly like this. And that was the one he played from late 64, I think, until he stopped playing Gretsch guitars in 65, 66. And to me, this is not the top of the line Gretsch, because he also played a Country Gentleman, which was a much more expensive guitar. But this was the coolest one. I always preferred the look of this one. I'm fortunate to own a Country Gentleman as well, like the one he had, and even a Dual Jet, the first Gretsch he played. But the Tennessean is my favorite Gretsch guitar, and probably my favorite guitar. I had it for 25 years. Bought it back when they were affordable, and I just love it. It's done a lot of work with me. Of course, I played a lot of Beatles shows with it, but it's been on nearly every record I've participated in since then. Used it with Marie Frank, with Both Man Love, and the Beatophonics, and all albums I've guested on, stuff like that. So I just love this. This is the guitar I pick from him. It's got a very atmospheric sound about it. It's a very clean and open Gretsch twangy guitars are.
But there's something more to the sound.
Yeah.
What's that?
I brought along this. This is an old Binson echo rack. It's called what most people call tape echo. Actually, it's not a tape. It's a drum echo. It's a metal drum. And I just love these. I love old tape echoes, and I especially love the Binson. It's got a fantastic sound. I got quite a few of these Binson tape echoes. They're not too reliable, all of them. I think I got 5 at the moment, and I think I got 2 or 3 that's actually working at the moment. But this one is my favorite. That's it's from the late 60s. Bought it from an Italian dance band musician years ago. And he had it from new, and it's been traveling along with him for years until I got it. Still bring it on the road with me when possible. It's quite a fragile thing, so I have a special build case for it. But these days, when you have a lot of pedals that can do kind of the same thing, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing the Beatophonics where I'm not using it to do effects like that, not playing around with it too much, I would just bring in a little echo rack pedal, which sounds nice as well, but it's not as good as the one. This is really perfect, and it's special because the capstan thing that drives the motor around is a little worn out actually, so it's a little uneven, I think. So it's got quite a lot of warm flutter. You can hear the note going like out of tune. I love that. You can kind of recreate that electronically, but it's never the same. That's the real stuff. So.
Would you like to play his song?
Yeah. I think Christmas coming up. So I like to do a thing, that's features this guitar, the sound of this guitar, and the Binson tape echo. So, what about this one? Chestnut roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see a reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering the simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. It's been said many times, many ways. Merry Christmas to
you so much for watching, and thank you Skyhook for the support. Please like the video if you do, and please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button not to miss any more artist talks from me.